In this lecture, we'll take a look at loft modeling. So on the screen here are 5 examples of parts that were created using the loft command. And as you can see, the geometries are quite complex and not achievable by using either the extrude or the sweep tool. And this is where the loft tool can enable us to create these types of complex models. The loft tool essentially takes sketches from different sketch planes and calculates a 3D body between them. There's a lot of maths going on behind the scenes to generate these faces, but we have the option with the loft tool to adjust certain parameters that will influence these calculations and create the geometries that we need. So in this lecture, we'll take a look at these 3 key types of loft modeling, which are profile loft modeling, centerline guide loft modeling, and rail guide loft modeling. So let's start with profile loft modeling, and to demonstrate this, we're going to be modeling this part here, which is an interesting looking vase. Let's go into a new design. Let's first of all save this file. So save. I'm going to call this profile loft modeling. Make sure it's in the right location. That's good. Save. And to model this vase, we need to do 4 individual sketches on 4 different planes. Therefore, we're going to use the construction. We're going to offset a plane, and we're going to offset in this case from the XY plane. We're going to come up vertical, and that's going to be a dimension of 75 mil. Press enter. Let's put in another plane then. Let's offset from this one here. Let's go another 75 mil. And let's do one more as well from this one. Scale up another 75 mil. So we've got our 3 added construction planes, and we've got the default XY down here. So let's press C on the keyboard and start a sketch. And let's sketch on the XY plane. And let's hit C on the keyboard again for a circle. And we want to start from the origin. So just rotate that slightly. I've got the origin there. I'm going to drag that out. Let's go for a diameter of 75 mil. Press enter. Okay, that's nice. And that's finished that sketch there. And now let's create a new sketch. Hit C on the keyboard. And now we're going to sketch on this plane here. Okay, so we're sketching here. We've got our origin there. So let's start from there. Bring out a circle. And let's go for 200 mil. Press enter. Okay, got about 2 sketches in there. Let's finish the sketch. Hit C on the keyboard. Let's go for the 3rd plane this time. And I'm going to start just at the origin there. I'm going to drag that out. Let's go at 18 mil. Let's enter. Okay, got our 3 sketches. Finish that sketch. C on the keyboard. And we do a sketch on the top plane as well. And instead of a circle for this one, I'm going to come up to create. I'm going to go into rectangle. And I'm going to do a center rectangle. We must start that from this origin point here. In terms of the width, let's go for 150, press tab on the keyboard, and let's do a height of 100, press enter. There we have our 4 different sketches there, and you can see how this will build the volume and the body of this vase. Let's finish that sketch then. Okay, everything there is looking good. Now let's come under the creation tools, and we're going to select a loft. So from here, our toolbox pops up, and we need to identify profiles in which to loft from. One thing to note here that's very important is the order in which you select these profiles. For example, we'd either want to go from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom. We want to, say, start from this one, work our way down, and then select this one last. As per the calculations built into Fusion, we must start, let's say, with this one here, and then in logical order, we'll go through the rest of the sketches. So this one here, we start to see that preview form already. Now let's see how that preview changes when we select this profile here. Okay, we get that nice arc, nice curve coming in here. And then last but not least, we'll select this profile here. Everything in the preview is looking good. So we're just doing profile modeling here. So we're only concerned about this box. We're not concerned for the time being about guide types or rails, but we will cover these in a demonstration after. So we can click OK there. Let's have a look at this. That's looking good. It's the geometry that we're after. We can add to this as well. Let's do a shell command. We're going to select this top face here. And in terms of thickness, let's go for 2 mil. See how that comes out. Press OK. Yeah, it's looking nice. We've got our unique looking vase there. So let's see how we can edit some of these faces then. We can understand here that by using the extrude tool or the sweep tool, this would be impossible to model. Whereas with the loft tool, we're able to achieve this particular type of face here. I'm going to turn off the grid. There we go. So let's come down to our timeline then. We could see we've got our added 3 construction planes. We've got all 4 of our sketches. We've got our loft there and also the shell command. We can edit any one of these. So we can edit these sketches. We can edit the distance of the plane. And we can also edit the loft tool as well. So let's right click on the Loft tool. Let's go Edit Feature. Let's take a closer look at the model. Now you'll see on every profile that there are these circles, which essentially guides the faces of this feature. And we can adjust these. For example, left click, we can drag these down. We can see here how this guideline will alter depending on where we locate this point here. And likewise, if we do that to this one over here, okay, we can shift it around like so and start getting some really funky shapes coming out. Okay, let's see how that comes out. Press OK. There you can see our faces there are very don't know how to describe that. We're going to skew it, and we've got these like sharp bends in here. Okay, so these are points that we can adjust within the lock tool, edit feature, to achieve profiles that we want to achieve. I'm going to press Ctrl Z, take that back, put the shell command back in. So that is the basics behind profile loft modeling. Very straightforward. We just need to remember to go in logical order from one profile to the next. Now let's move on and take a look at centerline guide loft modeling. So to do this, let's go on New Design. And let's press C on the keyboard, create sketch. And let's go ahead with let's go for the XY plane again. Let's press C on the keyboard, and we're going to draw a circle out to the right of the origin. Let's go for a diameter of 50 mil. We're going to use the horizontal constraint between the origin and the center point of the circle. I'm going to press D on the keyboard and dimension these guys up. Let's go for a distance here. Let's go for 100 mil. Let's finish that sketch there. That's one sketch we're going to loft from. And then let's do a corresponding face to loft 2. Hit C on the keyboard again. And this time we'll use a default plane. So we won't put in any construction planes. Let's go with the YZ plane. And for this, let's go create, and let's go for polygon. Let's go for circumscribed. Let's draw in a polygon here. Let's go for 10 mil. And let's constrain that vertically with the origin. And I got to put a dimension in there. Let's also go for 100 mil as well. We've got about a horizontal constraint on one of these lines here. And now that's fully constrained. Let's finish the sketch there then. So we have these two profiles and we'll loft between them. Let's come up to create. Let's go on loft. Select our first profile. Select our second. Okay, that preview is looking interesting, and we can just see a direct loft between these two profiles. So it's kind of like a diagonal. Not exactly what we want to achieve in this case. We want to have a nice arc coming in like so. And so to do this, we're going to use a guide. And in this case, we're going to use a centerline guide. So this is something that we need to sketch in. So let's go back to the drawing board. Press C on the keyboard and let's do a new sketch, this time on the XZ plane. Let's go to create. Let's put in arc. Let's go for a center point arc. Let's start from the origin. First point here to here, but notice we cannot snap on to the center points of either of these two profiles because they're not projected. So I'm going to press P on the keyboard and then project to this point and this point, press OK. Okay, now they're projected. We should be able to continue in our sketch. Let's go back to the arc, center point, snap from here, snap on to the first point, and then finish the arc at this point here. Okay, right click OK. Let's finish that sketch. And now this arc here will act as our center line for our lofting. So it should follow this guide here. Let's go and create. Let's go loft. Set our first profile and our second. All right, not quite what we want to have. So here we're going to put in a guide type. And instead of rail, we're going to start with center line. And here we need to select our center line. So I'm going to select this one here and see that big change there. So a nice guide to direct the loft. So, okay. There's one more thing I want to show you in here as well. So if we right click and edit this feature, I want to take away profile 2. So I want to hit the cross here to remove that. And instead for my second profile, I'm actually going to select it instead of this profile. I'm actually going to select this point here. Okay, if we press OK. So we don't have to go to a profile. We can go to a point. Okay, and we can see that nice kind of sharp end there, looking very sharp. Sort of like a wizard's hat. Okay, so very simple. Just go right click, edit feature. And again, we just add in either a center line or a rail here. But in this particular example, we used a center line. Now that we've covered the centerline guide loft modeling, let's take a look now at the rail guide loft modeling. So let's jump into a new design. Let's do an example of this. So let's hit C on the keyboard, start a sketch. Let's go on the XY plane. And that's hit R on the keyboard. I'm going to use a rectangle to demonstrate this. Draw out a rectangle. I'm going to do 80, tab 60. Okay, then I'm going to constrain that. Let's go for the coincident constraint origin. Hold down Shift, select the midpoint of this line. That's fully constrained. Finish that sketch there. That's one of our profiles that were left. Let's do another one now, but let's offset that from the XY plane. Let's offset that by, let's go for 150. So, okay. C on the keyboard. Let's do a new sketch on this plane here. And I'm just going to project these lines here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. That's looking good in the preview. Okay. And then finish the sketch there. And there we have our 2 sketch profiles. So if we go ahead and loft between these now, it will just be as easy as doing an extrusion, nothing interesting. If we now go ahead and add in some guides to guide the loft in its direction, will show us something quite unique. So let's hit C on the keyboard and let's do a sketch on, let's go for the XZ plane. And in this case, I'm going to use an arc. Let's use an arc, 3-point arc. One note about when we're using rails, they must be to some extent smooth. If we've got a really jagged line, Fusion will not be able to carry out the loft as the faces will be too complex and perhaps conflict with one another. So I want to snap onto this line, but I need to project it. Certainly hit P on the keyboard, project this point here, press OK. Okay, we've got that point there, that's nice. Let's go back into the arc tool then, 3-point arc. Let's do the center point to this point here. I'm just going to bring that out like so. Let's put a rad on that. Let's press D on the keyboard, put in a rad. Let's go for 90. Let's finish sketch. Now let's go and create and loft. And this line here, instead of acting as a center line, we can sign this to act as a rail. So very similar to the concept of centerline. First of all, let's select our 2 profiles. Let's go 1 and 2. Okay, very basic extrusion there. And now let's go on the guide type, select the rail. Let's select our line that we've done here, the arc. It will see now that the loft kind of conforms to that rail guideline, all on the external in the center of this face here. Press OK. And again, we can edit this. We can right click, edit feature, and we can adjust these points here. Okay, so that this will create some additional faces with some rather crazy things. Press OK. Okay, and then it'll apply a unique shape coming out there. So that covers the profile loft modeling, the rail guide type, and also the center line as well. I hope that was all clear, and I would recommend having a good play around with this tool depending on what you're trying to achieve. And if you have any comments or questions, please do send them to me. But aside from that, I'll see you in the next lecture.